We got a good show for you today. Today we have Hayden Hatten. He is a wide receiver at the University of Idaho. Let's get right into the video. All right, so few kind of random ones before I get in your career, but in a season, how many football gloves do you go through, you think?
Oh, that's a good question. So for practice, you need more gloves for practice than for games. As crazy as
Yeah.
it sounds, you just catch so many more balls. I'd say I'd probably go through one a week, just with how often when you're beating them up. So I'd say I about like 10 to 15 gloves a season.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get like a rip and it just ruins the glove. So there's like malfunctions like that could like just wipe out your gloves in total.
Yeah, I was always wondering that. I was thinking about questions to ask, and I had never asked that before, and you being a wide receiver. So my next one is what's the funniest thing a fan has ever said to you?
Oh, dude, I don't. There was this one guy who's at the spring game, and he bought a 80 jersey, that an Idaho 80 jersey from China,
Yeah.
and he took it off and threw it down to me with the Sharpie on there,
Yeah.
like in the middle of the spring game. And I was kind of taken back. I'm like, dude, that's baller. Like, that's player. I'll
Yeah.
sign it. And he didn't really say anything to me, but that was like one of the funniest altercations I've ever had with a fan. Cause then I brought him down, we took pictures and stuff. But it was just it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. Usually you come
Yeah.
down, hey, he just took it off and just
He
threw it
just
right on
chucked it.
the field.
He won the autograph. He was getting it one way or another.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Yeah. So you might not follow stats, but if you do, what is your favorite stat to follow,
Like stat as in like receiving stats.
or just anything, football wise?
Oh, I mean, obviously I like the touchdown stat, right? Like receiving touchdown stat,
Mm-hmm.
but I think my favorite stat in all of football is throwing touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think that's really cool for a quarterback, like somebody like Tom Brady who leads the entire NFL career and throwing touchdowns and stuff like that. It's a pretty surreal accomplishment, because like every quarterback in the world, all they want to do is throw touchdowns, either on the goal line or, and like, quarterback has so much more, can determine so much more because they touch the ball on every play,
Mm-hmm.
compared to like some receivers. Like, receivers, one of those positions you need a shot. And so if the play's not called to you, or you're not, the ball's not coming your way, it's one of those positions you just have to let the game come to you. You can't really force things. And quarterback, you touch the ball on every play. So you can always make a play if it's a passing play.
Yeah. So in the NFL right now, who do you think's the most underrated player?
Oh, you know what? And he's not underrated because like he's a stud and people see that, but I think Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now,
Yeah.
just with the way he goes up and attacks the ball, and he's a fearless catcher. Um, and I think that separates you in the NFL, because you see a lot of guys who not chicken out, but they're just like Justin Jefferson will throw everything he's got to go get the ball. And I think that's like a characteristic of a great wide receiver. So I
Yeah.
think he's the number one receiver in the league right now.
So I guess going off that, who would you put as your top five?
Um, I'd put him. So
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Cooper Cup. Uh, I, it's gonna be wrong, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
put Thielen. I want to see what Thielen
Yeah.
does with the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I'm gonna throw a tight end in, and I'm gonna put Kelsey. And
Yeah.
I think Kelsey's a great receiving receiver. Hill's good too. Yeah, I'll say Hill because he's actually a receiver.
Yeah.
So that'll be my five.
Yeah, no, it's a good list. I want to kind of get into a little bit your career. So the 2020-21, you had the spring season, and then you had to go into the fall. What was that like?
Yeah, so that was interesting. And now that was only my second season in college.
Mm,
So I guess I've always been adjusted to playing fall in the or football in the fall, right? And when that got taken away during the COVID season, we were going to play in the spring. It was such a quick turnaround. It
mm,
felt like there was no like separation of seasons. We only played in 6 games in the COVID year,
Yeah.
So that I guess that was good just to keep us like more fresh for the real season like upcoming, but
Mhm.
it was such a quick transition that it felt like you were almost like season to season, like you were in a camp, you finish your season, then you're in a camp like in the next month. So it was kind of crazy, but I mean, you do what you do, right? Like
Yeah.
we didn't really have a choice. That was what we the cards we were dealt.
Did you have to go about things differently, like managing the body and different things to like avoid injuries and stuff, or no, not really?
I think you're always kind of managing injuries. You're a college athlete, you
Yeah.
have to stay ahead of like those things, like, and you're always doing preventative work. It's more the more games you play, the more chance you have to get hurt, right? Like, and so like when you play 18 games in a 5 month span, like it's just a lot of opportunities to that's probably why you saw like a decent number of kids go down during a season like that. It's just more more live plays, you know.
Yeah. No, that's all right. So you coming into college, you were a tight end, and now you're obviously a wide receiver. Did you know that change was going to happen, or not really going into it?
Yeah, I kind of always knew I was a wide receiver. I in high school I was a bigger kid, and so coaches started recruiting me. Were like, "Hey, you could be a tight end," and I never really even had my hand on the line
Yeah.
as a high school kid, but I was willing to do anything to get on a team.
Yeah.
And when Idaho reached out to me, I jumped on it immediately. So at first I was committed to Brown to go play tight end. I have a twin brother who plays football with me here as well. So we wanted to go to the same school. And when we decommitted, Idaho offered both of us, and we were like, yeah, this is a perfect fit. And so we came here, and he played linebacker. I played tight end at the time, and we had a decent amount of receivers go down. And they were like, you know what, let's plug Hatton in at the X. I was,
Yeah.
and as a tight end, I was running like receiving tight end routes.
Mhm.
I wasn't like the hand in the ground, like true 11 personnel
Yeah.
tight end. I was running the fancy tight end, right?
Yeah.
Or you get to run like the 15-yard digs and the clear out corners and stuff like that, to where it wasn't really much of a transition for me to go back to receiver, because that's what I've been playing my whole life anyways. And so I was happy when the move happened, and I never gave the position back.
Yeah. Well, it kind of is funny. It kind of went into like my next couple questions. So what was like the recruiting process like for you out of high school? Because I saw like a thing where I know you hate Northern Arizona because they like didn't recruit you. I saw something about that, or so I was wondering about the recruiting process.
Yeah, my recruiting process was a little weird because I received one Power Five scholarship, and that was to Louisville, and and then I received like only one Big Sky Conference scholarship, which was um Idaho,
Yeah.
and then I had a couple of other FBS schools like Nevada. um it was Army, schools along those
Mhm.
lines, and then like USD. And my brother and I wanted to play together, and the Ivy League offered both my brother and I, and then my brother had some opportunities at schools that I didn't have.
Mhm.
And Brown seemed like a great fit because they both offered us. We were both going to go there, and so we committed there before the start of our senior season. And the head coach got fired, so that like kind of changed our entire
Yeah.
view of the program. We're like, oh wow, like maybe this isn't the best fit for us right now. They're going through a transitional phase. So we took our visit. We weren't fully committed with how things were going, and so we decided to pull out and decommit, reopen up our recruitment, and we had a couple of opportunities at other schools, but Idaho was definitely our favorite of the bunch. And when we came up and visited Idaho, we just fell in love with it, and took it,
Yeah.
and it's been a
So
blessing.
yeah. So what's it like playing college football with your brother? I mean, I feel like if you have a sibling, it's got to be your dream to play college sport with them.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I have a cousin up here who plays basketball as well, and we all three of us live together, which
Oh,
is
that's fun.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. My brother and I were lifelong best friends. We've grown up playing football, basketball, baseball together on the same team since we were 5 years old. And so to see both of our dreams kind of come true and unfold at the University of Idaho, we're forever thankful to be Vandals. And 2 years here, my cousin was getting recruited to play college basketball, and he wasn't sure really where he was going to go. He ended up going to a prep school, and I knew we were short on numbers on the basketball team.
Yeah.
So I went to Coach Claus, who was the coach at the time, and I was like, "Hey, recruit my cousin, man. He's from Bakersfield, California. Um, our families were never we're always close, but
Yeah.
we were never in the same area. And they were in Bakersfield. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. We were both playing sports, busy
Mhm.
childhoods growing up. To where it's really never like our family's never been closer. My
Yeah.
dad and his brother, who've lived like apart from each other for the past 20 years now, come to every one of the games for football and basketball, and it's been a blessing. It's just been so fun that
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing it any other way.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. The power of sports getting the families closer. Obviously, like the NFL has to be like in the back of your mind a little bit. Like, what are some things you're like working on, to get there and everything?
Yeah, with the NFL, it's always just at the end of the day, 80% of what the NFL is going to look at is what you do between the lines on Saturdays. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what school or where you're doing it at. If you're putting up numbers and you're performing, that's what the NFL is going to look at. That's the first thing that gets you on the board. So my first thing is going out and playing the best football I can in this upcoming season, and having the Vandals win a lot of games and making a run into the playoffs, because I think that's what's going to help not only my stock but our entire team's draft stock. You see teams like SDSU and NDSU who are always sending these guys from FCS schools, and it's because they're always the top teams in the country. And then um, besides that, I'm definitely preparing for the combine stuff and training for things like that, and making sure my height and weight, and passing the eye test, just to give myself every advantage I can. I know I'm going to test well in a
Yeah.
lot of the events. I feel very, very good. Um, but a tenth of a second is a third round pick to a sixth round pick pretty quickly in a 40-yard dash, which blows my mind because you're not sure how much it really correlates to getting open on somebody,
Oh,
but that's what they look at. So you have to buckle down and train for events like that. So I think I'm more right now where I stand. I'm more worried about getting my body in the best shape possible and going and having a great season, and then really preparing for all the combine stuff after
mhm.
the season finishes up. But for now, I'm just trying to win games.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna kind of change my question up a little bit, but like after a season you have, like a lot of players would have transferred. You kind of said why, like you stayed. But why don't you think a lot of people look at like the FCS as like a viable option to the NFL? Like I see people have a great season, they're immediately looking to transfer.
You know, I think I think there's and this is a tough question, right? Because obviously that entered my mind. I had a lot of like people reaching out to me, asking me what I'm thinking, and um, for my own personal like story, I just I'm so loyal to the University of Idaho. These guys gave me a scholarship that that I'll forever be grateful for. I have my undergrad from here. I'm going and getting a master's degree from the University of Idaho as well, and they've just provided me and my family with so much that I want to come here and give it my all this last season and try to help the Vandals go win a Big Sky championship. And you can make it out of any school. You just have to have the numbers. And I think transferring the transfer portal is, and you're a college athlete, so you
Yeah.
understand how quickly people are to jump in the transfer portal and everything.
Mhm.
The transfer portal is for people who are in a bad situation, and typically that's why you see kids who are in the transfer portal transfer three or four times, right? Because it might not be the situation they're in. It might actually be them that are, like every day they're like, oh, I'm better than this. I'm going to transfer. Or, this is unfair. I'm going to transfer rather than buckling down and working hard. But I think the transfer portal's for people who are truly in a bad spot. And you see people who are in a bad spot that use it and go excel at a different school and then they stay at that school. Well, if you're at a school where you're already excelling and you're having a great time and you appreciate everything that's been given to you, I think it's important to stay at that school because that's not what the transfer portal's for. It's for people who actually need an outlet to go somewhere else.
Yeah, because it's like the old saying, if it like ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, don't. Yeah.
Yeah, the grass isn't always greener,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I just think it's important if you're in a good spot and you're excelling, there's no reason to give up something where people have invested 4 years of your life into you. And but the scholarship we sign as athletes is over like $320,000 with like
Yeah.
if you accumulate everything, it's stipend, and it's nuts to where
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what job I was working in high school, I wasn't going to make that money.
No.
And so you look back and you just kind of you're thankful for the opportunity to go play at a school like this. And yeah, I would, the last thing I'd do is leave some place that's given so much to me.
Yeah. Final couple questions. So you had 4 touchdowns in the first half of the Eastern Washington game. Talk a little bit about like that game.
Yeah, I love playing against Eastern Washington. So they're only like 60 miles away from us.
Mhm.
One of my best friends, Logan Kendall, who played at Idaho, transferred to Utah for his last year, was from Cheney, and that's where Eastern Washington is located. So I've been down there a ton, and I know a good amount of kids on the team, and they talk crazy because they used to like we've gone back and forth the entire time I've been here, and now we've started balling out against them and rolling them. And so every time I play against Eastern Washington, I want to win. During the COVID season, I caught like my first game winning touchdown against
Yeah.
against Eastern, and so I just love playing against Eastern. I know the guys well, and it's like a backyard brawl that it may the best man win, and then whoever wins is the king of the Palouse for the year.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you played a lot of places all around the country. Where has been your favorite place to play?
Oh, I like, and I hate saying this because I don't like the school because I think they're jerks, but I think everybody thinks they're jerks because they have such a great fan base. But I love playing at Montana.
Yeah.
Montana just has a different sort of environment, and it's kind of the oh, if they're on my side, you love them, but if you're against them, you hate
You
them,
hate them, yeah.
right? Like so, like if like I think the Idaho Vandal fans are slowly becoming more and more like that as we start picking up some steam. But a team with that type of support from their fan base, you dislike them because you're almost jealous of that support. Like they have the best fans in the country. Like you go play there and there's not a seat available. All 30,000 seats are sold out, standing ovation. People care about the Montana Grizz. It's a really, really cool environment. And that's like a Saturday college football environment for sure.
Yeah. Last question. It's always like the hardest one, but when your career's over down the line, how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, that is a tough question. Um, I think I want to be remembered as a guy who showed up every day, practiced lunch and worked hard. And I think that's the most important thing is you see people who have dreams and aspirations to go play in the NFL or play in the NBA or whatever professional league their sport is in, and they don't realize how consistency plays such a big factor in doing something like that. And so if you show up every day and I'm remembered as the guy who showed up at practice every day, ran every rep as hard as he could, and left it all out there every time he was out there, that's the most important thing to me because you can't teach heart, you can't teach effort. You can teach techniques, but
Yeah.
if you care, you care.
Yeah. Well, Hayden, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I hope to stay in touch and best of luck this season.
Thanks, dude. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, dude.